let's find out how embarrassing my Notion pages are. Today, I'm going to be rating pages inside of my Notion Workspace as someone who literally builds Notion Workspaces for a living. Here's the thing. When you build Notion Workspaces for clients all of the time, it is really easy to neglect your own personal workspace. So my workspace, she could use a little TLC. But I am excited to dive in and hopefully give you guys a little peek into what I keep in mind when I am building in Notion. So let's start off with the goal planner. This page might look familiar to some of you. It is one of the first pages I ever built myself in Notion, and it is also one of the first videos I ever shared on YouTube. So this page holds a special place in my heart. It is one of my favorite pages, and it is also one of the places I come first to test out new features. So a lot of the times I'll have like half-baked ideas in here in my own personal planning section, but I will say there is a lot that I would actually update on this page. So let's take a look. So just looking at this page, it honestly feels a little bit stale to me, and I know that's because I've been looking at it for 2 to 3 years straight. It is crazy that it's been that long, and honestly, I don't even remember how long it's been. It's literally been 2 or 3 years, and I can't tell you which one. But I think this page may get a little visual upgrade just in terms of like colors and stuff, because I'm a little tired of looking at this specific setup. Not that I dislike the setup, but I do think the colors could just use a little bit of a refresh for me. One thing that does bother me about this page is this widget over here. I literally never use this widget. I only put it on here when we started to give it a visual look, have something to look at within the page, but it's really not useful. Number one, I don't use it, but then number two, if you hover over it and try to actually use these arrows here, I can use this arrow to like flip back months, but I can't go forward because Notion's little like settings for this block are here. So like I can't even use the calendar. It's really not functional. So I think this widget is gonna need to go at some point. The more time I've spent in Notion, the more I am really not interested in having widgets just to look at widgets. If it's not functional in my space, I really don't want it there because it's a big distraction for me. My next biggest complaint about this page would actually be the check-ins and the brainstorm portion. Not that I dislike the process of how I do this. I love doing my brainstorm at the beginning of the year. I love doing my quarterly check-ins because they do really help me keep on track, and there's nothing wrong with those specifically. However, when I first created this, I was kind of using this button function as a replacement for what I think should actually be a database. And there's two kind of reasons for that. One is that when I go to reset for a brand new year, I have to come in here and rename all the pages and actually change the titles of them so they're at the correct year. And then when I go at the end of the year to kind of get rid of everything from the previous year, I put it down here in this little archive section for the previous years. And I think that's just not super efficient. What I could be doing is having it in a database that's automatically filtering out by date for me, so I don't have to be doing that. Yes, I'll have to create the pages each year, but in terms of renaming the pages and archiving them and all that kind of stuff, it could be a lot easier of a process than what I have set up here. So if I were to rework this, instead of creating pages as blocks here with this button, I would instead use that button to add pages to a database for the brainstorm, the quarter one check-in, and 2 and 3 and 4, and so on. The quick links over here are absolutely fine, but if I were to rearrange things a little bit, I actually would put them on the left side of the page here, because when you log in on your phone, on your mobile device, the first thing you see is the leftmost column if you have columns on your pages. And so because of that, I always try to put my navigation on the left-hand side of the page, because then I can get to the other pages a lot quicker on my phone than if it was on the right side and I'd have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page. I mainly use Notion on my laptop just because it is way easier to use than on your phone. But if you are looking for tips on mobile optimization, I have a video all about how I do that within the Notion framework itself. You'll also notice that I have my little navigation bar up here at the top for frequently accessed pages. One of those is my goal planner. And so this I think is really great too, because again, when you're on your phone, it makes it very easy to navigate between pages. All right, so let's look at the actual goals themselves now. If I pop open one of these goals right here, we can kind of see what's going on inside of the pages. So as you can tell, I have been messing around with the new layouts feature here in this page. However, I'm not entirely sure that I have made the best use of the layouts in this specific instance, because when I measure my goals, I either measure them by tasks or numbers, or if they're finance goals, then it goes by like what my actual balances are in my finance section of my planner. And with all of that, I have put them in the little sidebar here so you can see what that looks like. If I pop these open, you can actually see where I am with my goals. And I think that's fine, but what I would have done is actually put these on the main page, because every time I have to go and update a numbers-based goal, I have to open the sidebar and pop this open to then update it, versus if it was just here on the page and I can pop open the little toggle there. I really love that Notion added this sidebar, because if you are not using certain properties, you can easily hide them and keep them out of the way, like this created time property here. Honestly, guys, I don't even remember adding this property to this database, so I don't know where it came from, but it's not something I use. So it's easy to just throw here in the sidebar so I don't have to look at it and it's not cluttered by space. But I am all about ease of use and limiting the number of clicks I have to do. So in this case, when I'm going in to update my goals and I'm having to click into the sidebar to do that, it's not the most efficient for me. So what I would probably do is I would move these out into the main part of the page here. And then some of these relations that are hanging out here, like the tasks, I would probably put that in this sidebar here, because in the main portion of the page, I actually have my tasks showing. So it's kind of redundant to have it here when it could be in the sidebar. So some of this stuff needs to get a little flip-flopped around so that it is more functional. I also tried out tabbed views for the first time in this specific database. So I made one for my unfinished tasks and then also my finished tasks. And I have a different video that explains my thoughts all about the tabbed views in databases. So they're not necessarily my favorite for all instances. And in this case, I don't necessarily know if this is the most efficient thing to do either, because again, I do have my tasks showing here in the main portion of the page. So what I might actually change this to is my projects instead, so that I could see all of the projects that were linked to this specific goal. Something else that I might change about this in the future is, instead of using tags for my quarters and for my year, I might actually start using a date property. And again, that has to do with the whole filtering the databases situation, because what I have going on right now is that when I reset for a brand new year, I come in here and I change my filter for the year to be the current year. And when I do that, I'm having to go through every single place that I have this database showing and change that filter up. And if I was just using dates, I could auto filter that with the dates. And the more setups that I have started creating in Notion where I use the date property for automatic filtering, I've really started to love that, because again, I'm not doing as much upkeep with it and it's all happening on its own in the background, which is awesome. So that may be an update that I make to this in the future. We will see. I will play around with it and see how it goes a little bit. The last nitpicky thing I have to say about this specific page is, in my templates, I have 3 different goal types, one for business, one for personal, and one for family. I do actually do 3 different goal planning areas, so that I can do one with my husband for family goals, and then one for my business in a different area. So this is just my personal goal planning. And I do like that. I want to kind of keep that happening, because I like to be able to keep those areas separate in my life. But now that Notion has a little bit more functionality and automation behind some of their features, I actually don't need 3 different templates for these different areas, and I will explain why. So the reason I have 3 different templates is because when I click on those templates, they do 2 things. One is that they apply this tag of the type being personal, and then they also apply a button here so that when I add an action item to my task list, it makes sure that all of the action items are a specific type of task. So in this case, it's a personal task for my personal goals. And then if I add a business goal, then it will be a business task when I add that to my task list. But with the increased functionality with buttons now, I can actually inherit properties that are here in this goal and put them in the task list as I am adding things in. So for example, if I were to come in here and edit the category for the specific task, what I can do is I can actually use a custom formula to look at this page and pull in the goal type, and then that can be the new category. So if I were to press this button now, then it would put the type as being a personal task, and now I don't really have to worry that much about having separate templates for these different areas of my life. I can just make it inherit the goal information. So ultimately, a lot of these things are kind of splitting hairs. This is still incredibly functional, which is why I haven't made these updates. I'm getting along just fine. I am using it just as well as I was before. I do think there are some places that could be updated just to make better use of Notion itself and to make it a little bit easier on myself. But overall, I'm going to give this page a good 7 out of 10. It is a solid, functional page. She just needs a little bit of an update. All right, and now I am taking you guys to a never before seen page. This is my family dashboard, and it is honestly a hot mess. The only thing I really like about this dashboard is the picture, because I mean, come on, we're super cute, right? Now, first off, just looking at this page, you're probably like, what the heck is going on right here? And that is a really great question. I do not know. I feel like I found a little glitch in the Notion matrix right here, because this is actually supposed to be a widget, which is actually one that I have here on my life dashboard. So the way that it's showing the weather, I actually had that embedded on the family dashboard as well, but for some reason, oh, and now we've changed. So now it's showing the family dashboard here instead. Before it was just showing my Notion home. So I don't know what is going on with this widget. It is being super weird. I have even tried changing out the link and it still, did this again. So I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I haven't touched it. That clearly shows you how much I actually use this page too. The idea for this page was that this was supposed to be a landing spot for both me and my husband. I was going to invite him to this page so he could see things like our meal planner, our travel planner, things like that. But I've ended up pretty much sharing most of my Notion workspace with him anyway. So now I'm kind of like, this is a little bit pointless because he has access to pretty much everything anyway. But the sentiment is there, and I do hope to one day kind of revamp this a little bit so that he has a place to go where he knows what's going on as well. So honestly, this page is about as basic as it gets. I just have a bunch of links hanging out here and then a nice little quote about family. So that is the extent of this page. It is so basic and honestly really terrible. Some of the pages that live here aren't terrible themselves, like our meal planner is actually in here. This page is fantastic. We use this all of the time. It is highly functional. I just have it living here so that it was easy for him to also access. And then we also have a quick link to the weekly shopping list here as well. Our finances page lives here as well as our travels and our family goal planning, which looks exactly like my personal goal planning. It's just designed a little bit differently in terms of the colors. But these other pages, like the home improvement and the spring cleaning, these are honestly the most basic that you can get. Like this page here that has to discuss, it is literally just a checklist of things that we should talk about at some point, and there's nothing fancy about this page at all, and it actually kind of drives me a little bit nuts. To be honest with you, some of this stuff doesn't really need to be super fancy, but I do think that it could be better utilized within Notion itself so that we actually use it a little bit more. We barely even touch some of these pages, like the honeydew list. Honestly, I'm sure he hasn't even looked at it in a year. Our home improvement list, we haven't even looked at it in a year because we've reprioritized our goals since then, and so it's just not really active. I created this page back when I very first started Notion as well, and so this did feel super cool at the time, but now that I've built a lot more in Notion, what I would actually do with this is I would rework it a little bit to actually feel like a dashboard. So having things like seeing the recipes for the day or knowing what we're going to be cooking for the next day and things like that from this page would be fantastic, so that I don't have to actually go into my meal planning page itself. Also, since some of these pages are things we aren't even using anymore, I would definitely pop them into my not in use page that's over here. It's kind of like my little archive when I throw things over there just because I'm not looking at them, but I don't necessarily want to get rid of them. It keeps my sidebar nice and clean, and it keeps the pages that I'm working in clean as well. So considering that we really never use this page even, I think I would probably give it a 3 out of 10. Now, if you're curious what I would say about your Notion Workspace, I do offer Notion Workspace Audit so that you can get constructive feedback on how to make the absolute most of your Notion workflows and systems. If you want to get my eyes on your Notion Workspace, I will leave a link in the description for you below. Next up, I want to take a look at my Life Hub. Honestly, I really like this page. I have thought a couple different times about reworking it just to give it some different visuals because I do like to change things up every once in a while. But I have to be honest with you, there's really not a ton I would change about it. First off, we have a little navigation bar at the top here to help me get to some of my most frequently accessed pages. And again, as I said, this is fantastic for use on your mobile phone. So when I pop onto there, I can just get to those pages very quickly. Again, to make it easy for my phone, I have my left sidebar stacked with easy things to access. So first is my quick add where I can add in new tasks or new random thoughts. And then here's my navigation for everything else within my workspace so I can get to those very easily. What is super nice about this is while I have these all open right now so I can see everything, when you go on your phone, they're actually all closed so I can pop open the ones that I'm looking for. I also have a view of my tasks for the week and I love to be able to see those here because it does keep me on track when I'm just popping in to look for something really quick. And then on the right hand side, I also have my current goals that I'm working on and my current books that I am reading, which is really nice to be able to access from here too. To be honest with you, the only beef I have with this page right now is that I have so many goals that I am currently working on and so many books that I am currently reading that it goes way longer than all the other content on this page. So what I might do to just make that a little bit easier for myself right now is to add a toggled view here so I can see the goals in progress and toggle between the goals and the books so that they only go, to like about here instead of going all the way down here. Otherwise, this page is really optimized for mobile. It is easy to find what I am looking for. I can get a quick glance at my tasks and my goals and just see what is going on overall. And I also really like how I've positioned this widget too to kind of break up the columns and not make it feel as blocky. So considering I am kind of in the mood for a little bit of a change here, I may update the cover and the colors, even though every time I look for a new cover, I cannot find one I like as much, but I will be searching because I'm kind of feeling like a little bit of green might be good right now. So we'll kind of see what I can find. But overall, this guy's gonna get a 9 out of 10. It is a great page. I also want to take a look at my weekly reset page. I actually just found this photo and I am really liking this because again, it's pulling in a little bit of that green and it's not feeling overwhelming. So that has helped me make this page a little bit more bearable to look at, but overall it is not my most favorite page in terms of layout. This page is super important. It is kind of the backbone behind my entire system and workflow within Notion. It is where I do all of my planning, like my meal planning and my weekly planning and all that kind of stuff. And I also have a review here as well. So there's kind of two phases to it. First, I do a review. So if it's just a normal week, I'll go ahead and do a weekly review. If it's the end of the month, I will do a monthly review as well. And then I move into the actual reset portion, which I have some tasks that I do to kind of clear things out, which I've already done this week. Then I do a few tasks to be current, and I have a couple more left. And then I do some things that help me stay clean around the house here too, which hopefully I can do tomorrow. It was very rainy today and some of these are outdoor activities, so I like to not do it when it's raining. That being said, the imbalance on this page drives me nuts. I hate that there is this little section here for the review and then this big old reset. I just don't really like how it feels like the page is really weighted to the right-hand side. So I would probably change where this column is a little bit here and try to even things out a tad. But overall, the functionality behind this page is actually really great. These buttons are pretty loaded with actions. So when I create my weekly review, it is actually coming in here and creating the weekly review itself. And then it's also pulling up all of my habit reviews for the entire week so I can see everything in one place and kind of take a look at how I actually did for the week. Previously, I was doing all of that manually. I was like calculating my percentages on my habits and things like that, but I have set this up now so that it's all automated and it does that calculation for me, which is fantastic. And the same goes with my monthly review too. The other part I love about this page is that my weekly reset tasks are actually all set to auto repeat. So on Fridays at noon, when I typically start my reset, these are going to auto-populate for me. So all I have to do is come into this page and see this list. Otherwise, I would have to be remaking these myself every single week, and having this auto happening for me in the background is really great. So overall, I'm probably gonna give this page a good 8 out of 10. For me, aesthetics are really important, and this page does drive me nuts to look at, but the functionality behind it is really solid. Like I said, I use it all the time, so it's not something that I've really prioritized redoing because, again, it's functional. The last page I'm gonna talk about today is my Freebies page, and this is probably the most sad page in my workspace. These are where I house all of my Notion freebies, and some of these are honestly super old. They've been kind of retired, like my 2023 goal planning template. That guy is not a thing anymore, but I need a place for all of them to live, and so here we are. Honestly, my preference for this would be that my freebies would live in a database so that I can easily access them in other places, and that they would also live on my actual business page itself. So right now, if I open up one of these, you'll see that it is just a blank page and there is nothing going on up here. But if I were to put them into a database, it would actually show any other properties that I have in that database itself. So I could put them in a blank database so that they at least live somewhere and they're not just kind of thrown in here. But I don't know if that's really the most efficient thing either. It's really no different than what's going on in here. So this is kind of something that I need to play around with myself and kind of see if I could find a better way of organizing these within my workspace. But right now, this page is pretty awful. I'm going to give it a nice little 1 out of 10 because there's nothing happening here. These are just sitting. I wish they were a little bit more organized and I could put them into my business hub instead of keeping them out here all by them little lonesome selves. If any of these templates are interesting to you though, I will include links for you down below in the description of this video. I won't be putting out the older ones that have been retired, but all of the ones that are current you can find below. Hopefully this video gave you a little bit of insight into what I keep in mind when I am building in Notion, and that you just had fun hanging out with me and seeing all of my pages, even some of the ones I haven't shown before. Personally, I think I have found my little passion project for maternity leave for when I inevitably want to start tinkering with things again. And if you want me to audit your workspace too, be sure to check the link in the description and book an audit with me. In my next video, I'm going to share some of my favorite tips for keeping your Notion workspace organized, from page structure to creating a clean and tidy sidebar. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. Until then, you can still get started beautifying your Notion workspace with this video on simple steps that I take to make gorgeous Notion pages. I will see you in the next one.